What's up, grinders? So today we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to be reviewing this video called Ancient Computer Algorithm Found in Pre-Inca Language. Now, you can imagine why this has caught my interest. 1, language. 2, computers. 3, crazy old uncle type of looking dude. Seriously, I'm looking at this guy and he reminds me of my uncle. You've all got that uncle, right? Like, he's the guy who sits in the dark room. He's got like the 3 monitors going, just like blaring in the dark. If the computers are not connected with one another because he's sure the CIA is spying on him, and he has the answers. He's got that one grainy photo from the internet from some like Incan temple where it shows like an ancient astronaut, and he's like, check it out, man, check it out. Like, you know the one I'm talking about, right? Like, we all have that uncle. Please tell me we've all got that uncle, because I've got that one. And you know what? The funny thing is, they're usually the nicest person in the world, completely harmless. And they'll, like, rope you in slowly. Like, you'll just get into this conversation and be like, oh, hey, how's it going this morning? Like, did you see the news about, you know, what's happening overseas? And they'll be like, yeah, man, yeah. Have I got the gossip for you? Look what I found. I'm like, oh, God, here we go again. Like, I'm just looking at this guy. He may not be this guy. But the title of this video, that bushy beard, and the books behind him all point to the uncle. So we're all going to go down that path today, boys, but we're going to try and deconfigure this one. Now, I know a lot of you came here for, you know, the hyperpolyglot slaying. I'm sorry to say, today is not Slay Hyperpolyglot Thursday. We'll get back to that another time. Today, we're going to learn about this algorithm found in a pre-Inca language. Hopefully, I don't have to, like, fry my brain in the process. Let's begin.
You know, I tend to be pretty skeptical of ancient high technology. And to be clear, by ancient high technology, I mean like combustion engines, computers, electronics. You know, we know that...
It's the uncle. My uncle starts the conversation literally in the same way. He's like, you know, I'm a skeptic like you, man. I don't just believe stuff. I'm not like one of those people, but like, you know, those pyramids, man, like, there's something happening over there, isn't there? Or, like, even better, he'll start the conversation and then, like, he'll start roping you in, and it'll start one sentence and then it'll merge into this other sentence, and then as you're trying to process it and get through it, the next thing you know, you're somehow talking about how freaking aliens landed on the Inca pyramids, and you're like, you've somehow agreed to this point out of, you know, just, you know, politeness and stuff, and you're like, whoa, you know what? How did I get here? Like, I'm now in his dark room. I'm undergoing conversion at this point.
The Baghdad battery was quite possibly an actual battery. And we know the Greeks had, like, the Heliopile, however you pronounce it, some primitive...
I've heard about the battery, but I've not heard about this Greek one.
Steam engine toy thing. Anything past that, man, and I'm like, I don't know for sure. Now, to be clear...
Yeah, this is how it works. It's always, like, the god of the gaps happening right now. Like, we don't have the information there. Therefore, it must be aliens.
Also, I do believe the ancients had tech that we don't know that they had, that we don't ascribe to them. It's just...
Okay, here's my belief system. Some civilizations maybe have been slightly more advanced in certain ways, and some of that tech, yes, was lost along the way. But when we say tech, we're talking like agricultural advancements. Maybe some advancements in like mathematics and, you know, other things like that. But please don't tell me like flying cars and nuclear bombs and radioactive freaking, I don't know, pillars in the middle of India.
At a certain point, I'm like, come on, man, I don't really know. But there are sites, like Baalbek, that make me...
So the uncle, he's like, yeah, I don't believe that. But, you know, there is this one thing.
They kind of put me on my back foot there. They forced me to, like, reevaluate it and say, well, to be clear, I guess the best way of putting it would be, I don't feel like the people could have done the things at Baalbek with the technology I'm comfortable with.
Okay, guys, you're going to need some popcorn. Prepare for some, like, let's do this. Just get ready.
Describing to them, right? So it does put me in a position where I'm like, I don't really know. I think that there's a mystery here. But Baalbek's impressive visually. You can see it. You can take a picture of it, show somebody else, and they can be like, whoa. What I'm going to talk to you about here isn't a site. It's a language, the Aymara language. And tucked away in the Aymara language is an algorithm that is so computer-like that when Ivan Guzman de Rojas, that's his name, sorry, when he first discovered it, he was so blown away by it that he actually used it to make computer software.
So we have an algorithm, apparently in a language. I'm not sure how that works, but I guess we will see. Maybe it's like Lojban, you know? Maybe it's just like a highly logical language where, you know, you can't just drop things, it can't be unambiguous. Let's see.
And that, well, to a guy like me, that's way more impressive even than the big rocks, which the big rocks impressed me a lot. So let's talk...
The big rocks impress me.
Talk about this for a minute. Hi, my name's Dan, and welcome to Debunking.
Oh, bro, no, please. What is it with these channels? It's like they were all filmed on VHS. Like, I'm getting, yeah.
You know, back in 1979, when I was still drinking chocolate milk and running around in my underoos.
This is another thing I always notice about, like, these ancient alien type, shows. I don't even know if this is an ancient alien. I've just made that assumption, okay? Like, these types of ones where really, 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 like, alternative history type of stuff, or, like, conspiracy within history type of stuff, they've always got, like... It's like the collection of knowledge stopped as soon as the 2000s happened. And we have to go back to the golden age of early computers and stuff to find the true knowledge. You know what? I guarantee Amiga will be mentioned. If Amiga is not mentioned, I will shave my goddamn... No, I won't do that. If Amiga is not mentioned, I will flip this hat around and salute the guy.
Ivan Guzman de Rojas had already discovered the Aymara language was unique and was already digging into the enigma. Its strange syntax immediately got him working on the language, and soon he came to the conclusion that, quote,
Was that like the script of the language? I want to see that.
Aymara is a matrix, and its syntax is
we're past it.
Defined in the array.
Wait, Aymara is a matrix, and its syntax is defined in the array. Okay, I'm trying to look at this... I don't know if this is from like a linguistic point of view or like a program point of view. So an array is simply a contiguous set of data in memory, okay? So basically just like a bunch of freaking data next to one another. A matrix is usually something that's used depending on certain things. It could be used for location, rotation, stuff like that. Scalability if you're talking in programming, or like game programming and stuff. So I don't know, maybe it's got a linguistic meaning. And the problem is I'm not a linguist, so I can't dive into this.
This allowed him to create a simple program that would generate Aymara phrases in both Aymara and Spanish. Now, the nature of the language allowed it to be seamlessly incorporated into a computer, and it was used to make a translation program that, for the time, was the best multi-language translating software available in the world.
So basically, what it was used for was as an intermediary language. Now, funnily enough, Esperanto has been used as an intermediary language for translation systems as well before, due to the fact that you can manipulate and bend the language around quite a bit. It's a lot better than, say, English as an intermediary, which is what Google uses. However, I have not seen yet what makes this language so good as an intermediary.
This is something
which, by the way, would not make it like an algorithm. It just makes it an intermediary.
Wanted to get out of the way for the skeptics really quickly. This wasn't pareidolia. This algorithm was put to use quickly and was used in the real world to create translating software. And this actually used 3-point logic instead of the simple 2-point logic in a normal binary system. 0 means no and 1 means yes or whatever. This actually has yes, no, and maybe.
Yes, no, and maybe. 3-point logic. Okay. From a programming perspective, like, I don't know how that would be useful unless you just want a case where you don't know the answer, and you could easily program something like that. Like, if it's not a yes or a no, you just go, okay, well, I don't know the answer. It's something over there.
And that's, you might say, well, that's not how a computer talks. Well, yes, but 3-point logic systems had been around, 3-point logic software, had been around for like 20 years at this point. So it wasn't brand new, all right? And
it's not anything special either.
Again, it incorporated very seamlessly. He was able to very quickly make a prototype using the algorithm that he discovered, just tucked away in the language.
Come on, give us the algorithm.
And by 1985, his prototype was able to translate
Atamiri. Oh, I thought that said Atari then. I was about to, like, flip my shit.
Aymara, Spanish, and German, both directions. The software was dubbed Atamiri, and the history of the software itself is kind of sad. This story has some parallels to Gary Kildall, if you know who he is. I mean,
no, I don't know who he is.
It's sad, but like originally Guzman programmed this on a Wayne computer, and Wayne...
Wait. He's doing it, man. He's doing it. He's doing the uncle. He's starting with one thing, he's jumped to another, and I've just been pulled along for the ride. Like, we started with this language, now we're talking about this Gary guy over here and his sad story.
Computers are not some spicy YouTuber's merch. A Wayne computer was...
What?
A company from the 80s, and in the 70s and the 80s, look, man, there were a lot of different companies that had operating systems, that different programming styles, different versions of...
Bro, stop it. Stop. Pull back. Okay, can we go backwards? We're now moved on to OSs. He's going to hit Atari. Come on, you've got to say Atari, please. I don't want to flip this hat.
Basic, different versions of logo, different versions of real simple, common languages, and all of them had different machine languages. So programming wasn't quite
You're right there. Just say Atari.
as cut and dry as it is today, which is not cut and dry now. But if you were porting something from one system to another...
Okay, he's talking about, like, not cut and dry programming languages and stuff. I guess he's talking about, you know, languages that are closer to the hardware system, such as, like, C++, C. Because, for example, you've got the most basic language, which is just 0 and 1, basically. It's just the bits. And then above that, you've got, like, assembly, which is based on the hardware. And then above that, you've got the first, like, human-readable programming language. Those are the hairy ones. And they're still hairy as hell to this day. Like... if you want to program for, like, Windows at the most basic of level, you could do it like C or C++. And the APIs, so the APIs is, like, literally the systems that you tap into, have not changed in, like, 20 years.
Man, it could be hairy.
Actually, probably more like 30.
Because there was... documentation was in the form of paper, man. There was no internet to help. So... anyway, putting it on a Wang computer was a bad thing because, well, first of all, Wang went under after a little while.
Okay, so let's try and summarize what he's saying. So there's some type of algorithm found in this language that we shouldn't put on the Wayne computers. Okay. And as I hear Wayne, I'm thinking Batman.
Where they only offered him basically a pittance to do the work that he needed to. And even though the algorithm was already there, the lexicon, right, he has to put all the Spanish words in, all the Aymara words in, if he wants to do German and English.
Okay, got to put all the words in. What? Just feed in a dictionary? Are we looking at endings here? Like, give us some give us the internals.
English and Portuguese on down the road. All these have to be painstakingly. The words have to be added into the system. Just because it has a good algorithm, it's magically there, doesn't mean it magically learns words on its own either, right?
What do you mean it's learning words? Or are you just, like, saying stuff now?
So we switched over to the IBM PC and the software.
Come on. Atari, man. Atari, don't leave me hanging don't make me look like a dick in front of my subscribers.
Found a whole lot more support, but it's still not remotely enough for it to fulfill its potential. But in the early 2000s, it was the fastest and most thorough multi-language translator available, and it had been horribly underfunded at that point still. In 1993, for example, CompuServe tested it and found that it was the only true multi-language translator available at the time.
Okay, but we don't know the magical algorithm yet. So it says the evaluation was based on the translation from English into French of typical texts that usually appear in exchange messages in CompuServe network. The results were positive in spite of the fact that French was not yet a strong language in Atamiri, and tests were especially difficult. Okay? It is a very fast system allowing real-time response and high improvement possibilities.
It was utilized in several commercial applications, mostly for the translation of manuals and other reading materials. And in 2001, it was capable of translating Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian, Romanian, and English, all using Aymara as the bridge language.
Obviously, it didn't do it very well, otherwise we wouldn't have had translation systems that came up after this. We'd still be using this.
The mother tongue of the software, as Guzman put it. Now, Guzman battled for funding and kept trying to get more people to focus on Atamiri until he passed in 2022. But it does seem the software fell into disuse. In 2001, with a then top-of-the-line 800 megahertz Pentium processor, it was capable of translating 700 words a second. A second.
Okay, that's great. But how does it function?
2001. In multiple languages.
He's doing this, like, with my uncle, man. Like, my uncle will tell me, like, all this stuff, and I'll be like, and then he'll be like, yeah, man, yeah. And I'll be like, yeah, because I don't know how to respond.
That is impressive. It worked so well because of this way the Aymara language was structured. And that secret was something that Guzman uncovered when he was teaching Aymara children. He noticed that they consistently had problems with Western mathematics, in particular things like 3 times 4 and 4 times 3 both being the same. They thought they were different.
Okay, does it say how they thought it was different? Okay, it says when doing VSO, so verb, subject, object. Okay?
Because of the different order of the numbers. So
it makes sense because mathematically, when you're looking at maths in a way, it's basically subject, verb, object, I guess, kind of. And maybe for them, because of the specific word order, it was just a struggle to see that, you know, certain things could be flipped different ways. It's not that strange of a thing.
He decided that this was a linguistic thing, and he dug into their language. And boy oh boy was he impressed. He found 5 things that he decided were going to be useful in order for him to make this computer language. First of all, Aymara has a trivalent logic, the 3-point logic I mentioned earlier. This is very unique. In fact, Google's AI claims that there are no trivalent logic languages in existence, truly, but...
Yeah, there is constructed ones. Oh, look, they even mentioned Lojban right there. Great. So as you can see, we do have languages. There's also the feminist language. Feminist. There's the feminist language. I'm pretty sure it is as well, although I may be wrong in that, because I do remember that it had particles that would that you would add to the end of a sentence, which would basically state whether the statement was true based on, you know, seeing it firsthand, or whether it was based on secondhand, which would make it an unknown.
Clearly, Guzman claimed there was, and he seems to have backed up his claim, so I'm going to think that the AI is probably a little bit off on this one. Now, Aymara's sentences end with one of 2 operators. One means this maybe, and one means certainly.
Yeah, so it's basically a particle system.
And this allows for that 3-point logic, because you either have certainly yes, certainly no, or maybe.
But, you know, we basically do these even in natural languages. So, like, you might say something, you'll be like... I think I saw someone over there. And that's basically a maybe situation.
And that is really a huge part of the secret here. Not just that, but that's a huge part of the secret.
But obviously we do this by reconstructing sentences in different ways and injecting random things in. But I'm guessing what made this language special in a way is that it just had a very simple, very regular way of doing that.
The next 2 things are basically tied together. One is the longevity of the language itself, despite attempts to completely stomp the Aymara people out, and several attempts to incorporate their culture into Spanish and other different communities in the area. They seem to have had no problem keeping that language intact. In addition to that...
Wait. Okay, why is that so special? Lots of languages have, like, managed to somehow survive colonization. I feel like we're about to go down that, you know... that path where this random occurrence jumps to this random occurrence, and next thing you know, boom, aliens on pyramids.
It has been unchanged throughout that. There are different regional dialects. However, the language syntax never changes, even when it takes in new sayings from other languages, and that's where things get really weird.
That's not that strange. Like, the core of a language will be pretty stable if it has very little influence from external, like, factors, like external languages.
Look at this guy, for example.
Shut the fuck up! 每次开会都不提前通知，我都回到家了才收到 news， 干嘛？你是要打游击啊？
The Chinese language always has its verbs at the end. Generally speaking, they talk like...
No, it doesn't. Okay. Well, since you got that very basic fact wrong about Chinese, I'm assuming that a lot of this stuff in here is wrong. Okay, Chinese by and by is subject, verb, object. Now, you can move it to be subject, object, verb by using basically a little word, which basically acts as an accusative case, which is ba. You can move it around for emphasis, but it is subject, verb, object.
Like Yoda. Go here, you do. Right?
Why you don't check these things? I'm guessing he probably mixed this up with Japanese or something.
Right? It's always the end is the verb. But in this case... he took an American saying, and he's using the verb right where it belongs. If he was speaking it in English, not an American saying necessarily. Yeah, it is. You're not hearing that.
This is where it gets, like, incomprehensible, I can tell.
On Doctor Who, are you? Anyway, my point here is that that's a very unique feature of the Aymara language, something else that Dr. Guzman noted.
It's not that unique. Okay, are we talking about the word order? The word order, even if we use a subject, object, verb, word order, it's not that unique. In fact, let's have a look at the word orders by, you know, uniqueness around the world. Okay, as we can see right here, the most unique word order is object, subject, verb. Okay, that is not Chinese in any way, shape, or form. So that would be the most unique. So that was a very bad, like, emphasis that he was making there. Now, I remember he showed the word order of this language, so let's just quickly jump back a tiny bit in the video.
There are things like 3 times 4 and 4 times 3.
Okay, so as we've established, that's not that unique. But I guess what he's talking about here is the fact that you've got some type of particle, which basically states whether the sentence is factual because you've seen it yourself, or whether it's from a secondary source.
The next thing he picked up on was called agglutination, and it means...
and this is definitely not unique.
...the language builds words from smaller words as a rule, like German does. And it's also a language filled with puns. It means it's more capable of handling those maybe statements in that 3-point logic I mentioned.
Okay, I know a guy who literally talks in puns. Like, that's all he does. He talks in puns. And every language you can do a lot of puns. Like, it's not something strange.
Earlier. And when Guzman laid out the matrix and saw how the system formed an array, he knew he had something here. And for the rest of his life...
Okay, wait, let me hear that again.
He knew he had something here. I mentioned earlier. And when Guzman laid out the matrix and saw how the system formed an array, he knew he had something.
Wait, laid out the matrix and formed an array. Does he mean like the syntax of the language always follows a very specific pattern? And therefore it can be fed into an array? I am so confused.
Here. And for the rest of his life, in his spare time, he tried to make Atamiri the premier language translating software on the planet. And in some points in history, he actually succeeded. Aymara is spoken by over 1 million indigenous Americans in Bolivia, Chile, and Peru today. There are regional dialects.
I feel like he's not going to mention Atari.
But all follow the same patterns, and as a result, all are compatible with each other. Learning one of the dialects enables you to communicate with people from any of the dialects.
Nothing special.
The Aymara people have a long-lived culture, and they are well known throughout the region. There's a handful of theories as to where the language came from. Of course, all of them are from the immediate...
From aliens. Come on, say it. You know you want to say it. It's aliens, isn't it?
...region, like Titicaca or Peru or Chile, but the origin is lost to time. None of the deities or folk heroes of the Aymara are...
Okay, deities always leads to aliens.
...credited with teaching them the language, but the best candidate to me would seem to be Thanupa, the one demigod who is credited...
So the language is now being accredited to a demigod. Come on, guys, say it with me. Aliens.
...with teaching the culture and agriculture to the Aymara. So Thanupa was also said to be able to command volcanoes and lightning, so he's kind of... That's the point, in my opinion, where you can't really learn a whole lot more from a story. And there's nothing that says he specifically taught the people writing. He's just the only real teacher in their history that I could find, or in their mythology, excuse me, whatever you want to look at it. So, kind of seems like it's a dead end there. Back somewhere, they came up with this language, or
it just evolved naturally, like every other language. Nothing special here.
Became a thing. Now, there's another unique concept that the Aymaran people have. It's called Ani, A-Y-N-I. It's a little hard to explain because it's a unique concept, but it is a kind of a combination of like the hippie idea that everything...
Okay, let's have a quick look at this. This often refers to cooperation between the members of a community. When one member gives to another, he or she is entitled to receive something back. Okay, that sounds like literally Chinese culture. But besides that, having unique words for specific ideas or feelings is not strange. I was literally at a language festival yesterday where we were discussing that one of the Aboriginal languages here has an entire word which literally means the feeling that when you know what you want, and you know what the other person wants, and you're sure that they want it, and you want to express it, you want to tell them, like we're talking sexual here, but you don't say it in case it's not actually true. Like there's literally just a word for that feeling alone. So having a word for specific feelings does not mean anything special. Anyone who's like, obviously you guys, you know this, you follow me.
Things connected, and this reciprocity thing that like you help me and I help you, and inherent like community, we work together. I think you might get the idea. It's spiritual and it's like physical. Like in some tiny communities up there still, they say that that'll be the only law in a village. It's like, Ani, we work together and that's that. So
that's also not that strange. Like if you go back in history, most very small communities at some point were like that.
My point here with bringing that up is it's kind of funny that the idea that everything's connected, that everything works together, that we're all one, that's a philosophical idea in their belief system, and it shows up in their language just like inherently tucked away in there. There it is.
Come on, it's aliens.
It is. We are all connected. It's kind of crazy. It almost would imply that the language was manufactured.
Here we go. Here we go. It's a manufactured language, boys. We're getting there. We're getting there. He's a conlanger. He's a total conlanger.
To me. And to support that is the fact that it has the three-point logic. It is literally the only language on the planet that has that, that's not manufactured. Every other language that has three-point logic, well, they tend to be computer languages. There's a couple that are manufactured human languages, it looks like.
Okay, so this language was man-made because it has this one feature, which I don't know is true or not, and I don't know how important this feature is, and I don't know if historically other languages had that, but we've arrived at it's a manufactured language. We have to get to the aliens from here.
From what I was looking around, but I didn't dig too deep into them. Fact of the matter is, three-point logic does not normally come up in human languages. But here it is, and it's uniquely useful to do something that philosophically the Aymaran people would be...
I feel like it's probably not something uniquely specified within a language because we always just talk around it. So people like to be ambiguous as opposed to being very straight with the facts. So to me, it's very obvious that you don't want to say, well, I heard this from a third source, as opposed to, I saw this, because people like to be ambiguous about how they got their information.
Be very proud to know that they were facilitating. And that brings me back to the ancient high-tech thing again, because I am hard-pressed to explain how an ancient language from the mountains of Bolivia would contain three-point logic and have its syntax laid out in an array.
Oh, it's obvious. It's aliens.
And also happened to never change its syntax and also incorporate puns and, well, be so useful and so compatible with computer languages that it's used to translate human languages from one to the other as a bridge, as a...
Come on, literally, English is used as a bridge language between translation for Google. Was it manufactured by the gods? By, I don't know, what's an English god? Let me think of a good one. We don't have any gods, do we? God, we suck. I'm sure we do. I should literally talk to my father. He's a Wiccan. He would know.
Mother tongue again, as Guzman put it. I can't really explain that. I'll be honest with you. That's really difficult for me to tell you how that exists, because this is kind of what my uncle does. Like, he does this at first when he gets to know people, but eventually it's aliens. Okay, that's the result. I'm just going to spoil the ending here. It's going to be aliens, whether in this video or not. I hope it's in this video so I don't look like an idiot. But basically, they leave you with this, well, I don't know. But it is constructed. It is very mysterious how it happened. It's totally not something that could naturally occur. What other alternative do we have? One unique feature, and it's not a bunch of features that we see all over the world, but they just happen to all line up in this one spot here. It's like numerous unique features dumped into one language.
There's not really that much unique here. Like, we've already established the word order is nothing unique.
And it all happens to facilitate something very technologically.
He wants to say it. Just say it, my man.
That's a word.
That's a word.
Logic-y word. I'll put it on the fucking screen right there.
Okay, guys. That's a word. Now on, whenever you're thinking about something and you're talking about technology, no longer you're going to say, this is based in modern tech or anything like that. You're going to say it's technologically.
Now what? Anyway, I think you get what I'm getting at here. This is weird to me, man. This isn't something you can just explain away, in my opinion. You can't just be like, well, it's a coincidence. You can say that if you want, but to me, that's absurd. That's absurd.
Okay, so it's absurd that this could have naturally evolved, that it could have this one feature which apparently doesn't exist in any other language, but everything else so far was not that interesting, realistically.
One thing it's worth pointing out here, I know the man doesn't really need me to toot his horn, but this is something that I got from Graham Hancock's Fingerprints of the Gods, by the way, is where I first...
Of course it was. Of course it was. I've heard of that book so many goddamn times.
Got the beginning of this rabbit hole. So there's a lot of details in Graham Hancock's work. He puts his information will be so dense that when you're reading it, you need to pay attention, because quite often what you're reading, if you just look past...
This so reminds me, okay, when I'll be speaking with my uncle, well, what's even worse is someone else I know who's not my uncle and he's not online and he just reads these types of books, is he'll be telling me this super exciting thing that he's just learnt about recently, and I'll be like, oh, okay, and I'll be nodding and I'll be listening, and it'll be something that was debunked 10 plus years ago, but this is the newest knowledge, this is cutting edge to him type of thing.
Past it, or take 3 or 4 points together, there's entire freaking rabbit holes that you're just going to miss, because he packs his information dense. It's not his fault. There's a lot there. Look into these things. If you've already read the book, read it another time, man, because there's stuff there. Anyway, that's enough of that. No, I'll toot my own horn. Hi, my name's Dan. I've got links down below to support the channel. I'm going to be at the Cosmic Summit this summer. There's a link down there to buy a ticket for that. I'm going to be doing all kinds of babbling in the near future. You want to be a channel member?
Okay, he's not going to mention Atari. Thank God I took that back. I will spin my hat to you, my man. You did not mention Atari. And I am also disappointed that you did not commit to the aliens. But we are going to unravel this, and we're going to find out if aliens are the cause. Okay, grinders, I could not let this one go because, I felt like there was something wrong. There was no mention of aliens. So I went to his YouTube channel, and my first, thought was yeah, this is an alien guy. There's definitely aliens involved. Holy crap, is that Metatron? That guy literally looks like Metatron. I'm so sorry. Anyway, it's total distraction. I had a look, and then I clicked on the more, and now I am so confused because he says no aliens, no sonic pyramid power plants, no global communication crap, no wool. then what is it? What is this mysterious thing that you think resulted in the creation of this language? Maybe he believes that there was an ancient conlanger. Some dude who, like, created Lojban before creating Lojban was cool. And then that somehow spread. Maybe that's what he's trying to get at. Or maybe he's like, it was probably aliens, but I don't want to say it was aliens because I'm a skeptic. And until I can prove it was aliens, like, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, like, there was something happening there. Because obviously it's not like, literally he thought it was an ancient conlanger. Like, it can't be that. Well, what else could it be? What else could it be? Because he kept talking about gods and stuff. Hey guys, it's like, I don't know how long it's been, but I've been watching this guy for a few hours now trying to figure this shit out. I think it's fucking aliens.